Welcome to Secret Story. As usual, I was the last one up and about. Mom and Peg were cleaning up the kitchen from breakfast when I finally made it there. Both were still in robes even though it was approaching 10. Mom hugged me. Peg tells me you two did some bonding last night. Is that what she calls it? Either way, I'm all for it. Yeah, we did. It's nice having someone to talk to since Dad is gone. Peg knows just the right things to say. Peg stood at the sink but turned her head around, smiling. She blew me a kiss behind Mom's back. You guys must have looked at lots of houses yesterday. You need to take it easy on her, Ryan. She's in good shape, but she's not 17. So, what's on the agenda for today? No worries. Mom. I'll let her off easy today. Yeah, we got lots of exercise yesterday. I slept like a log as a result. I'd like to check out a few places we didn't get to yesterday. Your mom wants to join me so you can take the day off, Ryan. But you did wear me out. Peg winked at me and smiled. The double entendres were driving me crazy. I hated to lie to Mom, but the truth was I did not want to take it easy on Aunt Peg. But I'd have to wait to see what would happen tonight. I was worried she might change her mind about our extracurricular activities at any time. I didn't want to get my hopes dashed, so I tried to play it cool. An hour or so later, they were out the door after kisses and hugs for me. I busied myself and finished the chores Mom had set out for me. I figured I had plenty of time before they returned, and I even cleaned my room again. Twice in 1 week, a record for sure. I reached under the mattress and pulled out my ancient penthouse. When Peg and Mom returned, they had good news. I think we found a place that Peg is going to buy. It's not too far from here and is perfect. It's an older home with beautiful details but upgraded with modern appliances. It also has a pool and a nicely landscaped yard. You'll have to check it out. Both Peg and Mom excitedly gave me the details. This was good and bad news. Peg would be living close to us for years to come, or so I assumed. But this meant that our late-night romps would probably disappear. I was in no hurry for the guest bedroom to be empty again. I tried to appear upbeat about the news, however, things had happened quickly. Peg made a cash offer on the spot, and the owners were happy to complete the deal. She wrote a check as a commitment for the sale, and the owners immediately changed the sign on the house from "for sale" to "pending." She would be moving in within a couple of weeks of the title search and other paperwork requirements. The house was partially furnished, although Peg assured us that she would replace much of the existing items with her own. Would you like to see it, Ryan? I've got the lockbox combination. We can run over there, and you can check it out. Peg winked at me. What did a wink mean at this point? Sure. Let's check it out. We hopped in her car, and Peg excitedly told me of her immediate plans for changes already in her playbook for the property. I hope you can help out, Ryan. Your mom says you are pretty handy. I guess I can verify that. You've got all the right tools. I imagine you are thinking about our relationship. Don't worry. I will be there for you whenever you need someone to talk to. What we have is special, Ryan. I wouldn't jeopardize that for the world. And, honestly, you've provided a wonderful service for me. Wait. That sounds wrong. You have helped me through a difficult time. And I won't forget that, ever. Last night was wonderful for me. And I see that you are, too. Here we are. The house was gorgeous. I'd noticed it before, but only in passing. It appeared to be one of the nicer houses in an older section of town. The freshly painted trim stood out, and I could see the backyard was enclosed with a tall fence and thick privacy hedges. That we walked up the sidewalk, and after fiddling with the lockbox, Peg retrieved the key, and we were inside. Peg closed the door and then turned to me, smiling. Come here, you. I've been wanting to do this all day. She held out her arms, and we embraced. I've been thinking about last night over and over. I'm so glad I was your first. Ryan. But you are something else. And soon. I don't think I can wait until tonight. But I've got an idea. Follow me. Peg grabbed my hand and led me to the large master bedroom. A king-sized bed covered with an abundance of decorative pillows beckoned us. We'll need to be careful and remove those pillows, but since I've already written a check as a commitment to buy, I'm ready to inaugurate the house the correct way. What do you think? Peg carefully piled the decorative pillows and bolsters on a nearby chair and turned down the bedspread to reveal black silk sheets underneath. Even better than expected. I locked the front door with the deadbolt so we won't be interrupted. She turned her back to me. That was it. We didn't move for several minutes, but I wasn't quite finished. We made a bit of a mess, but I'll get over here and clean it up later. Okay. I can't believe you can still get it up. My God. You are something else. We should get dressed and head home before your mother thinks we're up to no good. Sooner or later, she's going to suspect why you are smiling all the time. We straightened up the bed and double-checked everything before locking the house and heading back home. You're going to have to leave me alone tonight, buddy. I'm not as young as I used to be. You need to run a marathon or something to get rid of that extra energy you have. Peg was exhausted. Truth be told, I was tired as well. I stared out the window as we drove across town. I was the luckiest nephew in the world when we arrived at the house. Mom greeted us. Well, what did you think, Ryan? It's a great house. I'm excited. That reminds me, honey. When you get a chance, I'd like to chat with you. My radar suddenly went on alert. What could this mean? When Mom indicated she wanted to chat with me about something, she had a Mona Lisa smile on her face. I thought I could read her well, but this time, I was flummoxed. She couldn't have guessed what was going on between Peg and me, at least I hoped so. I waited until Peg had gone upstairs, and then I found Mom in the den, reading. What's up, Buttercup? I cheerfully sat on the ottoman opposite her. Our knees were almost touching. Mom looked up and paused as if carefully selecting words to say. Ryan, I did some washing today and, holy shit. My brain went into panic mode as I searched for a plausible excuse. And I found a pair of in your clothes pile. They're definitely not mine. So I'm wondering who they belong to and how did they get there. I put on a look that would have been appropriate for an impossible Jeopardy question in the category, lies you've told your mother. Next came the eureka moment. I almost raised a finger to punctuate my discovery. I've got it. Maybe Peg threw them there. She probably figured you'd be washing clothes. And my pile was convenient. Mom looked anything but convinced. I also found an old Penthouse magazine in the trash. I'm guessing that was not Peg's. She smirked. Ryan, you're old enough to be considered a man. I know guys your age have needs, and I don't want to be intrusive. I'm sorry that your dad isn't here to give you advice, but I am willing to listen. I'm open-minded, and I'm not a prude. If you have things you want to ask, I'd be happy to have a frank conversation with you at any time on any subject. Sure, Mom. I appreciate that. Thanks. Anything else? Just one more thing. Peg needs her privacy. I hope you are not going into her room uninvited. For any reason. Of course not. I only her when she invites me first. I completely understand. Good. Then keep my offer in mind. I'd be happy to talk to you about girl stuff, or even guy stuff. Just ask. Okay, Mom. Thanks. I do appreciate that. But the questions I had at the time were just a tad too personal. No way was Mom that open-minded. Regardless, I did feel bad about not telling her the truth. No way was I going to try to explain how her sister had introduced me to the wonders. Besides, Peg and I had made a pact that no one would ever hear about our escapades. I also knew that finding a replacement for Peg was probably years away, and I didn't want to ruin a good thing. Well, maybe guilt-free was not accurate. But strings-free was a fair descriptor. We were never going to have a romantic relationship, given our ages and the fact that she was my aunt. Still, I could dream. Living with Peg wouldn't be the worst thing in the world except in the eyes of just about every other human. Our southern small town would erupt in torches if people knew about us.so. For now, the status quo was just fine. Peg and I continued to connect both physically and emotionally, just not as often. Mom must have sensed something. I noticed that she changed as well after our talk. Both Mom and Peg had voluptuous bodies, to be sure. Those thoughts need to be preserved for therapy sessions when Peg finally did move out. I was selfishly saddened. However, she did comfort me by reminding me that I was only a few minutes away and that she still had needs. I knew, though, that sooner or later she would find someone else. And she did. The first time I heard Tommy's name, I cringed. Tommy was a firefighter locally and had met Peg when she had a minor fire due to an electrical short in her shed. He was handsome and single. His nearly body on the annual fireman's fundraising calendar was a hit with all the MILFs in town. Peg had dated him several times since then. Mom noticed my depression and finally asked about it. "Ryan, what's bothering you? I know something is wrong. You seem out of it lately. Anything I can do to help? Are you upset because your aunt is no longer living here?" Women's intuition being what it is. Moms have a sixth sense about these things. We were done with dinner and watching an old movie when she interrupted my reverie. "I had been thinking about Peg with another guy." "Oh, it's nothing. Yeah, I guess I do miss Peg a bit. It was fun having her around. You know, it's not like she's gone. She's close by, honey. And remember, I promised I would be here for you. We can talk about anything, okay? Come over here and sit by me. I have some things to talk about with you. I've been holding back." Oh, I thought. She couldn't know about me and Peg. I moved next to her on the couch, and she held my hand. Peg made me realize a few things, too. You are no longer a boy. You're the man of the house. I see your father in you every day more and more. You not only look like him, but you even have his mannerisms. Like the way you laugh. But I also remember you as a little boy and even an infant. I smiled at the thought of my tricycle racing down the driveway. Never mind, those days are gone. You are a man now. And a handsome one, as Peg discovered. Ryan. She paused and frowned. We were looking at each other, only inches separating our faces. "Ryan, I know what you and Peg were doing." My face must have registered shock. "Oh. What now?" I tried to look innocent. It wasn't a look I was good at. "I wondered why you were spending so much in your bedroom when Peg was here. And one night, I could hear the two of you. It sounded, and I was curious. I went upstairs, and I saw your door was open, but you were gone. And then I heard both of you in the guest room. What you were doing was obvious. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there looking at my feet. Mom still held my hand in both of hers. This is hard for me, honey. Since your dad died, you were my only salvation, and then Peg came along, and suddenly I was out of the picture. Knowing that you, my son, were love to my sister was a hard pill to swallow. To be honest, I was jealous. Mom, I am so sorry. Things with Peg just happened. And it seemed so natural. The fact that she is my aunt didn't bother either of us. She needed me as much as I needed her at that moment. I never imagined that you would be jealous. I just figured you would come unglued if you found out I was love with my aunt. It was a little of both, but then I realized that Peg would show you what a woman needs from a man. But it was difficult going to bed at night knowing you two were. Mom had tears in her eyes. I felt like shit. Here I had been screwing her sister and never gave a thought to my own mother's needs. I should have realized that she was lonely. She and Dad used to flirt openly in front of me. Part of my shyness growing up was sort of an ironic reaction to their openness. I looked her in the eyes and then kissed her on the cheek. I tasted a tear and wiped it with my finger. We looked at each other for a moment, and then I just reacted. I kissed her on the lips. Something I always did whenever Peg kissed me. I couldn't believe what was happening. This is so wrong, Ryan, but I need this more than you can imagine. I want you to do to me what you do to my sister. I know I'm not as gorgeous as she, but I'm not bad, am I? Mom was pleading with her eyes. And then Mom whispered in my ear, would you like that, Ryan? Let me know. That might be a safer way to finish. I did stay. Mom had never looked so beautiful as she did at that moment, smiling. Who could know that my mother was such a wonderful. I awoke wondering where I was for a few seconds before realizing I was in my mother's bed. As I slowly regained consciousness, I saw the empty spot where my mother had been sleeping. Noise in the kitchen alerted me to her presence there. I thought back to the sequence of events that led to my presence in my mother's king-sized bed. Our heart-to-heart talk had awakened in me a desire to comfort her. Her world seemed to be collapsing, and I tried to support her in any way that I could. But quickly, things progressed from comfort to. My initial, clumsy attempts to understand her feelings did not last long. I lay there and mentally reconstructed the previous evening. As I did, I automatically reflected on how my life had changed with the visit of my aunt only weeks ago. In the process, I had not only become self-confident but also skilled in ways to please women. At the time, Peg seemed to be involved romantically with a hunky fireman, and even though she promised to always be there for me, I sensed that intimacy with her was probably a thing of the past. But now, things were even more complicated with Mom. What did I get myself into? I slipped on my clothes and entered the kitchen. Hi, sweetie. Good morning. Mom was her usual chirpy self, but I sensed just a little edge in her voice. She kept glancing at me, and I suspected that we were going to have a serious talk. I poured myself some orange juice and sat at the table across from her. I smiled and patted her hands in a gesture of comfort. We have to talk, honey. I know, Mom. I was way out of line. Oh, no, honey. You were fine. I'm the one who was out of line. Don't get me wrong. I loved what happened last night, but what we did was wrong in so many ways. I was vulnerable, and I took advantage of you. I'm your mother. I'm supposed to be the adult in the room. You were sweet and supportive, and you only did what you thought was what I needed. And it was. You were incredible. It was a night I'll never forget, but it was a night we can never repeat. No one, not even Peg, can ever know about this. Do you understand? Sure, Mom. I do understand. I promise I'll never talk about last night with anyone. But I want you to know that I don't feel guilty about it. I feel great that I was able to give you a night of love in the deepest sense of the word. I've learned a lot since Peg arrived, but last night I learned how wonderful you are, and not just as a mom. I mean, I always knew that, but the kind of intimacy we shared was something I'll never forget. I only hope I can find someone someday who can duplicate what I felt last night. Thank you for that, Ryan. It was wonderful. And you certainly know how to please a woman. You will make someone very happy someday, but don't be in too big of a hurry. You have much to give. I'll be fine now. You made me see things in a new light. I'm going to try to get out and meet new people. I feel like I have a new lease on life. To use an old phrase. We shared many intimate moments after that. We had an unbreakable bond from that point on. There were no secrets between us. We could talk about anything. Peg and the fireman were an item for a while, but eventually, they realized they had irreconcilable differences. She eventually met and married an accountant who was a wonderful guy, if a bit boring. Peg and I had one more time after the fireman and before the accountant. That it was shortly before my 18th birthday. Mom was on a date, and Peg invited me over for pizza and a movie on her big screen TV. We had a couple of glasses of wine and snuggled on the couch as the movie started. "I got you a birthday present. Wanna guess what it is?" "No way, Jose. Those days are over." "It's almost as good, though. Your mom suggested it." "Wait here. I'll get it. I know your birthday isn't for a few more days, but I can't wait." Peg jumped up and returned minutes later with a nicely wrapped package. She placed it in my lap. "Go ahead and open it." I tore the paper off with no thought of saving it, as guys do. Peg tried to straighten it out, in case I might want to reuse it. The box that had been wrapped was light and delicate. I removed the lid, and at first, I had a look of surprise. Then I smiled. Look underneath. I removed the garment from the box, and an envelope lay underneath. Yep, they're mine. Something to remember me by when they are old and saggy. "You're set, buddy. Happy birthday." "Thanks, Peg. You know me too well." Laughing, "I have one last request. Since it is a special birthday, how about a special present? Let me see the real thing one more time. Pretty please, Aunt Peg." I took on an immature voice. "Okay. Just this once, since it is a turning point in your life. I suppose you want to see everything, don't you?" I nodded slowly. "I need to make sure this photograph is real. Just for verification, of course. They were just as I remembered them. Enjoy it while you can, honey. The other part of this deal is that this is the last time we are going to do this. That's a longer discussion, but for tonight, have it your way." After several minutes, she stood. I thought she was going to tell me to stop. "Okay. Happy birthday. But I mean it. As much as I enjoy my nephew, I promised myself tonight was the last time. I'll explain later. It's not you. It's me. But for tonight, tell me what you like, and Aunt Peg will make your fantasies come true. You only turn 18 once." True to her promise, we did everything I asked. I couldn't believe it that I never told her that Mom knew about us. And, of course, I never told her about Mom and me. After high school, I attended a good college and majored in civil engineering. I often dreamed about those wonderful moments with Peg and Mom. The support I received made me thankful to be surrounded by a loving family. Peg, Mom, and I made a point to get together whenever possible to share recent news and a glass of wine or two. Mom later found a great guy from church who lost his wife to cancer. I think they'll eventually marry, but that's her decision. So as I look back, I realize that my education was unique and contrary to existing social norms, but in the end, it was a wonderful experience. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. No part of this story can be reproduced in any form or by any electronic or mechanical means without written permission from the author. All characters are fictitious, and any similarity to actual people, living or dead, events, or locales is entirely coincidental unless otherwise stated.